today is amazing. One of my favorite people in crafting ever, Natasha McCarty.
Hello, Mr. Cole Morgan. How the devil are you?
Much better for seeing you. You are now, what are you doing? You're, first of all, hello. Tell people who don't know anything about you who you are and why you're so amazing.
I can answer one of those. My name is Natasha McCarty. Hang on, maybe I can't. What am I? Oh, I am many things. I own a business called Natasha Makes, which, as the name suggests, means that I make stuff. Generally soft craft.
You make cakes? Do you make cakes?
It's not Natasha Bakes. That's generally the question. Do you bake? No one wants to eat anything I bake, that's for sure. And yeah, I guess I'm a craft demonstrator.
Excuse me, I think you're a little more than that, my dear. Right, my description would be, this is Natasha Makes, who started in building, she's in year 2/3 of her little crafting empire. You took on, well, you were first with Sewing Quarter, and then that closed down.
No, I was at Craft first.
Wow, gosh, that's going back some.
So if we
but then you started this amazing business and thinking it would never go anywhere, and look at you now.
My words were, if it could make me a couple of £100 a week, so that there was, like one day I didn't have to travel to work, then that would be really great. Yeah.
But you started in very humble beginnings, like most of us with our little crafting businesses. Started in your own home.
Well, absolutely, yeah. So I was made redundant. Well, I mean, if we go way back, I started on Create and Craft after I had my son, Freddie, and I started as a presenter, having never done any live TV, and I was utterly dreadful at it, really bad. But you have to learn somehow, right? You have to. So yeah, that's where I kind of cut my teeth, and then I got the job as one of the launch presenters for Sewing Quarter. So I did the first show, I did the last show for them, and took my redundancy and bought HD cameras and set up in my craft room at home and went, I'm just going to do this for myself.
Well, we're very glad you did it, because it's turned out to be for all of us.
Oh, well, that's just it. But it's the community that makes it. It's absolutely the community that makes it. It's the people that tune in every week to watch. We do shows on a Monday, Tuesday, and a Wednesday, and it's everyone that comes on board and chats away on Facebook, and that we have a laugh with and a giggle with, and occasionally we actually get around to making something. Occasionally it goes right. It's generally known as warts and all sewing. That's what it's lovingly known as, because invariably I will be chatting and do something I shouldn't and have to unpick, but it's all part of the charm of it, I guess.
But it's also so relatable, because just before you and I were talking, I'm doing a sample for Monday, and I've sewn it the wrong way round, and I'm like,
But isn't that right? Like, the minute that you pick up any kind of sewing, you should be given an unpicker, because it's the most unrealistic thing to think that you're ever going to sew and not need one. It's just not how. And instead of feeling like a failure every time you do something wrong, it's just part of it. Like, just what it is. Yeah,
it is annoying though.
Oh, like really annoying. Yeah, especially when you've got people watching. It's like, oh, awkward.
Yeah, mine was on live as well.
You just got to either style it out, I think, just be completely honest about it. That's all you can do. If you try and cover it up, it's just awful. So I will always be completely honest and go, oh, look what I did.
But now, if I'm not mistaken as well, you had a little bit more of an illustrious past before that. I've got one word to say to you: Olympics. Tell me everything. And after Olympics, we're going to do ponies.
Okay, so I oh gosh, how far back to go? So I used to date a swimmer. Well, he missed the Olympics by 200th of a second, and then he ended up working for Speedo, and so I was around a lot of Olympic swimmers and people like that. He was like Mr. Speedo, and you'd see him by the side of the pool, and all these swimmers would just swamp him because he always had the freebies. And so we knew a lot of them, a lot of the different athletes, and he'd grown up with the likes of Mark Foster and people like that, like the big names in swimming, and we knew them all. And then we started a sports management company representing a lot of divers, wakeboarders, water skiers, all that kind of stuff. Tom Daly was, I was his first agent.
No.
Yeah. I got him his first contract with Adidas. Yeah. So I've known Tom since he was 10. And I was his first agent. And I got to the stage where I was representing all these athletes, and I had no understanding of how hard it was, really, what does it take to be an Olympian? And I dabbled at the gym. I might go every other week or something if I remembered, or was bored or something, but didn't know, I wasn't fit or anything like that. And I just remember chatting, because that's more what I did in the gym, with one of the instructors down there. And he said, he'd really like to see if it's nature or nurture, if you can take someone who'd never done anything and in a 4-year cycle, get them to the Olympics. So me being me went, pick me. Why don't I just sit on my hand, honestly? But no, pick me. So
I was gonna say, that's been the story of your whole life, isn't it? If you just sat on your head, you'd be a very different person.
No, I know. So pick me. And so it began. So we looked at me and went, well, with this body that I have, what sport would actually suit me? I'm very tall. I'm nearly 6 foot tall, very long legs, long arms, all of that. What would actually be a good sport? Because gymnastics and I, we're never going to be friends. I can barely do a forward roll. It's not there. Could you imagine? Just no. So it was a case of looking at what sport would suit. So we settled on modern pentathlon, because we figured that if it was going to work, I just had to be really good at 5 things rather than incredibly exceptional at one. So we kind of figured that the odds were stacked more in my favor of being, pretty good at 5 things, rather than absolutely exceptional. So we started, and there's a guy called Greg White. So every time that someone like David Williams or Davina McCall wants to do something ridiculous or swim the channel or something like that, you'll always see Professor Greg White. He'll always be the guy that rocks up, right? And he's been, I think it's twice the Olympics as a modern pentathlete. So we got in touch with him. And so he oversaw the whole project. And so I used to go to the Olympic Institute for all of my max heart rate tests, and they are hell on a stick, by the way. It's like, how far can you run? They keep increasing the speed every couple of minutes. And then when you're running flat out, it's like, now we're going to increase the incline.
Can I just say, as your target audience, you're not selling this to me.
No, don't do it. It was awful. It was horrible. I used to get so nervous.
Natasha, you've known me long enough. I'm not doing this.
No. And so you're running, and then you're getting steeper and steeper. You're running flat, and I just remember, I can't feel my arms. And because you've got a mask on, because it's measuring your oxygen and everything else. And Greg's like, keep going till you can't feel your legs. And I'm like, and there's actual footage of me doing this on YouTube somewhere. I don't know.
As you will see now.
Right, you'll have found that. It ain't pretty.
Welcome back. Now, it's no secret that it takes years of blood, sweat, and tears to make it to the Olympic Games. But imagine trying to qualify with no athletic experience whatsoever.
Crazy. But now imagine trying to qualify no experience on an extremely short timeline. That sounds crazy plus. But we are going to take you behind the scenes with an English school teacher who is trying to do exactly that.
I mean, it's incredibly challenging. Take an Olympic sport, and on top of that, we're going to try and take somebody who's got no experience of that sport and make her into an Olympian in the space of 3 years.
All of it's crazy, all of it's interesting, all of it's challenging.
I knew when I started that it would be tough, and everyone told me you will go to some dark places.
Everything you've got now.
It's an incredible task for anybody.
But why not? Why can't somebody qualify?
My name's Natasha Hunt, and I am trying to qualify for the London 2012 Olympics.
My name's Rob Parsons, and I'm a fitness instructor, and I do the daily grind. Just drop your legs to the side. With Tash, basically trying to take somebody from scratch who does no sport whatsoever and trying to qualify for the London Olympics.
Before I started this, I didn't have an athletic background to speak of. I hated sports at school. I wasn't a natural athlete at school by any means.
The odds are stacked against us, but why not? How do you know until you try?
I'm trying to qualify in modern pentathlon. So that's fencing, swimming, running, shooting and show jumping. With the horse riding, I've ridden since I was 11.
Just be careful that your foot's not sliding through your stirrup too much.
But it terrified me. I was so scared of jumping. I thought I was going to be sick the first time that there was just a trotting pole put on the floor.
Good canter.
Because I'd always fallen off. Whenever I tried jumping in the past, I'd always fallen off and hurt myself. It was the one I was most scared of trying.
Make sure that canter's settled before you come to the fence. Very nice.
Now that I know how to jump the jumps, I have to learn about the courses. So how to jump a course of jumps, which is very different from just jumping individual jumps, and remembering a course of jumps. My very first run that I did was run 3 minutes, walk for 2. I was that unfit.
What level does this competency have to be at?
You have to be passed as competent to compete, basically.
So the challenge was just getting fit enough to be able to run, and now that I can run, it's now technique work. So it's how can we take seconds off by improving my technique. The challenge with the shooting, you have to run your kilometre as fast as you can. You've got to keep your breathing under control and to aim and hit the target within a set time. So, yeah, you have to get your breathing under control.
No, that was rubbish.
And there isn't any substitute for the fact that their footwork is really fast and it's grounded and it's solid and it's balanced. Whereas sometimes I'm still thinking about my footwork and not about what my hand is doing. That now has to start coming naturally. So there's a long way to go with that.
She's actually seriously looking at making the 2012 Olympic pentathlon team. She needs to be doing a lot more than she is now.
I have to qualify. I have to. There isn't an option.
Hey, Tash.
Hi.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to take blood.
Yeah.
We're going to have some gases.
Yeah.
So lots of bits of kit on you, lots of poking and prodding. All right, well, let's get changed and we'll get cracking.
Okay.
If these test scores came out badly, you can pack up and go home. There's no point.
So let's pop this baby on. We're going to work at an absolute maximum because what I'm interested in is what happens at maximum, not what's happening elsewhere.
I dread these. I have nightmares about these.
Right up to maximum.
And I know that the only bit that counts is the last bit when I just want to get off.
She's hurting now. We're looking at how much oxygen Tash is consuming throughout this exercise. OK, off you pop. So we're taking a small sample of blood from the ear to look at blood lactate. That gives us an idea of intensity of exercise. And then the final thing that we're looking at is we're looking at heart rate with a heart rate monitor to look at how hard the heart is working throughout this exercise. Keep focused.
My legs are done.
OK, off you come, Ben. Off you come, off you come, off you come. Nice work, well done. All told, it gives us an idea of the whole cardiovascular system and everything that's going on physiologically during running.
We have these test days and we tweak things and change things as we go along. But she's a lot fitter, definitely.
It's those sustained efforts where you're effectively on the rivet, and if you go any faster, you won't be able to sustain it.
Yeah.
And that's where you want to be. Being an Olympic athlete is incredible. It takes years and years of work. Somewhere in the region of 9 years to become an Olympian is the average time it takes. For Tash, we're trying to do that. We're trying to expedite that in 3 years. That is no mean feat.
I am so much further on than from when I started. I'd never picked up an air pistol. I didn't know how to shoot one. I picked up a sword for the first time a year ago, and now I've qualified as a fencing instructor. So hopefully this year will be spent getting competition experience, and then so this time next year, I want to be invited to train with the British team. That's the aim.
I never realised how hard Olympians work. I never realised the dedication, the focus, the lack of social life.
If Tash can do it, anyone can do it. And I think she probably will do it, to be honest.
Everything you've got now.
Full respect to anyone that has ever qualified for the Olympics, because it's hard. It's really hard.
Very nice, yes, lovely.
So Greg oversaw that, and then Mark Foster helped me with my swimming, and so run, shoot, swim, fencing. I'd ridden horses all my life, but never jumped because I tended to fall off. So I was like, that's not really for me. So I had to learn how to jump. And it's a 4-foot course. You get 2 practice fences, 20 minutes with a horse you've never met before, and then you've got to go and jump a 4-foot or 1 meter 20 course. So it's not for the faint-hearted. Yeah, so the only thing that we were missing was a fencing instructor. And Greg said, there's only one person that you need to be your fencing instructor, but I don't know where you find him. His name's Professor Stephen Paul. And how do we find this professor? He was a professor of fencing who knew there was such a thing, right? Yeah. And he'd been the stunt double for Die Another Day for James Bond and all the stuff. And
it sounds like somebody you want to find.
Yeah. And when I found him, he lived 20 minutes away.
No way.
Yeah, I promise you, 20 minutes away. And he was just the best. I absolutely adored that man, because your coaches see you at your best, your lowest. They utterly tell you in the most blunt and honest way where you're at. And he just was the best. And he very sadly died of motor neuron disease a couple of years ago. But
that's criminal.
Like really, really criminal. But yeah, I adored that man. Absolutely adored that man. Just such an incredible human being. And his wife was she's just gorgeous too. And just the whole family. So yeah, so he managed to help me within the space of a year. I was ranked 21st in the country, I think, within the first year. And
wow.
And so it continued until I had 2 car crashes. I was hit from behind twice, neither one my fault, 6 weeks apart, and I lost all the power in my right arm. And that was my fencing arm, my shooting arm. Couldn't swim in a straight line, so yeah, I had to knock it on the head. That was
that's so devastating.
But how many athletes get to that point, where an injury will just...
Yeah.
I'm really lucky because it wasn't my entire life's dream. Like, I started at 28, so for me it was gutting, but it wasn't the end.
And by Olympic standards, 28 is quite late in the game to be doing it, because as you say, Tom Daley was your client at 10.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing. So swimming would have been the one thing I really could have really done with starting earlier. Swimming was the one that really needed me to have started earlier. Fencing, yeah, I mean, I beat one of the Olympic fencers, and I will hold that like my one moment in my very first fencing competition. So it's so certain things can be taught, but swimming is just such an ingrained sport. That was a toughie. The shooting I was really good at very easily, which worried a lot of people.
I was going to say, we're not giving you a gun. Thanks. No.
Never annoy me, right? Yeah, never annoy me. But it was only pistols. It's fine. You can't do a lot of damage with a 10-meter pistol.
Really? So from that car accident, and then you start off at Crate and Craft, is it?
I mean, a few little other jobs along the way.
Right. Tell us.
I ran my own laser fat removal company.
A laser fat removal company. Natasha, I'm in on Monday. Do you still have the little machine?
No,
I'm not saying anything.
I don't have the laser
1,
anymore.
3, and 4 would like to go now.
No, I don't have it anymore. It was an amazing machine. I had the machine. Physios used to use the machine for treating injuries. But as a byproduct, what they noticed, they would treat athletes and then they would go away and train, and where they'd treated, the fat would go because they'd perforated the fat cells. So they rebranded the machine for the cosmetic market. So I had the machine to treat myself for injuries when I was training, and then did all of my anatomy and physiology and all my training and everything whilst I was still teaching full time and training 18 hours a week on top of teaching full time, so that I could then, zap people's fat. Yeah, what a job. It paid for a lot of my Olympics training was fueled on fat. It wasn't the best.
I don't know how to respond.
I know.
Okay. Not
And
quite
then,
sure what to say.
yeah, and then I went back to teaching. I had enough of fat, and I went back to teaching. So I was teaching English in Stratford, and then moved down to Cornwall and did some equine facilitated learning stuff down there, working with horses. Worked on a natural horsemanship yard, and just took my love of horses a little bit in a different direction. Had a lovely time. But I was pregnant within a week of moving to Cornwall, so that was predominantly Cornwall. Living in Cornwall for me was all about babies.
That's very special as well.
Really
And you've got two
special.
beautiful children. One hates me intensely, which I find hilarious.
Don't take that personally. Like that's nothing personal at all.
I don't. I think it's a great achievement.
Yeah,
I mean, who's that man? I don't like him. Why are you in my house?
Yeah, she does that. Yeah, she does
But you
that.
should be very proud of that, obviously, because she is so vocal and so special. I love it to bits. Freddie thinks I'm cool, so Freddie can stay. Freddie's
Yeah,
still
Freddie
cool.
can stay. The Cornish one can stay, right? And the other one has a lot of opinions. Yeah, a lot.
You
of
wouldn't
opinions.
have it any other way.
Occasionally. There's your time where you just think, oh, we're a bit similar. How's that going to play out?
I'm looking forward to the teenage years.
Oh, I'm glad you are. I'm moving out. Is it acceptable for the parents to be the ones that move out, right? You just, I don't know.
I don't think you've ever done anything in a normal way. So whatever you do, it's going to work.
Find out, won't we? Watch this space. Yeah, but she's a force, that's for sure. And from the age of like 18 months, she's lifted entire bolts of fabric and stacked them. Like they're like her building blocks. She just stacks them. She stacks them in color order, like from a tiny top. She really knows her color. She really loves her color. So I'm kind of excited to see where that goes. Whereas Freddie will just go, they're all green, so he'll just like stack all the green, and he does it. So he does it like that. But now he's heavily into Pokemon. So unless you know your Pokemon, I don't.
I'm going to leave that one with you because I don't know what a Pokemon is either.
They're the little cards and stuff, but there's TV shows and I don't know, all sorts of, but they're like little trading cards effectively, but they've all got like Japanesey names and stuff, and they evolve and do it. Means he's reading. He loves them. He's reading. He's counting. It's all good.
And he's reading in Japanese as well.
I mean, maybe. Yeah. Who knows? I don't know. Sounds Japanese. It's like the manga cartoon.
I love it. And then, so now you've at Create and Craft, you've done that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I had a call from my agent to say, you sew, don't you? You do soft crafts. And I was like, well, I've, made a couple of cushions and a door stopper. Does that count? And sent her photos, because the last few months of Freddie's pregnancy, I really couldn't walk very. I had sciatica and goodness knows what. So and that thing where your pelvis splits and rubs, not very nice. So yeah, I was very much sewing and not doing a lot else. Oh yeah, so the lady in Traeger Mills banned me from coming in. I think at that point I was 10 days overdue, and she's like, please do not come back. We don't want you in here until you've had your baby, which I thought was really unfair, because she had then let us, if she was actually a trained midwife. I'm like, well, surely this is the best place for me to be. Like, no, but she was having none of it. So yeah, so I sent off my CV with a few photos of some dog beds and some cushions, and Create and Craft said, oh yes, come for an interview. And but I didn't know if it was just like one day of presenting, or I had no idea. I lived in the middle of Bodmin Moor. I couldn't even get the channel, didn't even know what it was, had no idea. bearing in mind that my agent, the last thing my agent had tried to put me up for was an all-male Shakespeare group. And I was like, really? How's that going to work then?
Challenge accepted.
Yeah. So, you know, there are some things I just can't quite manage. So yeah, so I didn't really have a lot of hope for it, really. And my husband was very grumpy about it because it was Easter. It was over Easter, and he had to drive like 6.5 hours to Peterborough to the studios on his day off. And anyway, but yeah, so I did the interview and got called back, kept getting called back every time, the 6.5 hour journey up. And it took them months to decide that they wanted me. And then when they did, they wanted me in 10 days. So I had to organize moving all my horses, find somewhere to live, pack, move, child, everything, husband, job, everything just had to go. Dogs, cats. Yeah, trying to find somewhere to rent with 30 stone of dog was really good fun, and, you know, a few horses. Yeah. But we did it.
You do have a small zoo, really.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's grown a bit.
Quite right.
Yeah, but no, there is. Yeah.
My husband's best friend says there is always enough love in this world for animals, and you have definitely adapted that.
Of course, yeah. Love just grows, right? There's no finite amount. It just grows.
It's very special. And then, so that was near Peterborough.
Yeah. So, and then, but I'd lived when the job for Sewing Quarter came up, I'd lived in that area of the Midlands, and I'd never known. So I went for a job at Jewelry Maker, not realizing it was on the same road I used to live on, sort of before I had Freddie, before we moved to Cornwall, and I had no idea it was there. No clue it was there. So yeah, I rocked up thinking it was an interview for Jewelry Maker, and they said, "But you sew, don't you?" It's like, well, you know, yeah, a little bit. Like really apologetic, like still not much more than a few cushions, dog beds, and a door stopper. And so they said, yeah, did I want to launch this sewing channel? And it was so top secret, it didn't even have a name. I signed my contracts without knowing the name of the channel that I was about to launch. Yeah, no idea.
But Sewing Quarter was a force. It was incredible.
It was, and yeah, so I signed my contract, and then they said, "Oh, we've got this freelance presenter as well, John Scott," and I'd only known him from like IT, like heard his name from ITV, and the launch of it kept being pushed back. So it was meant to launch in the beginning of January, and then coming soon, and it just kept being pushed back. So it finally launched on the last day of January. So we were still in January, and yeah, we didn't know if anyone would be watching or anything. So it was, yeah, it became quite the thing, and I lapped it up. I learned so much from all the amazing guests, you know. Yeah, that's
I guess so. Just the powerhouse of information. I was only at Sewing Street for 6 months, and what I learned in that time, they are incredible, those people.
You know, that's just it. If you really listen to what they say, you can just learn so much. They all have such a wealth of knowledge, and it was an absolute privilege to work with every single one of them, because they, you know, yeah, they are such.
They really are. And the thing is, the money is so bloody horrible in that industry doing that job. But when you look at how much passion these people have, and all these amazing creative people, and it's literally doing it for the love of it, because we're not doing it for the money. You'd make more money working at Starbucks.
You would. But that's the thing, and that's the difference. Craft has never caught up with the fact that it takes a lot longer to make a quilt than it does a card. So, you know, they pay the demonstrators the same and go, "What do you mean you've only made like 2 samples?" And the card people have made 5 or 6. And it's like, yeah. And theirs took like half an hour each. Mine took 3 days. 3 days.
That's quick.
Yeah, yes. So yeah, that's the industry hasn't. So anybody that works as a craft demonstrator in sewing, I think, you know, you've got to have a real love for it.
Yeah, definitely.
For
So what
sure.
have you done differently with your business from Sewing Quarter?
There were a couple of things that I wanted. Firstly was that I never wanted to have a product that I wasn't 100% behind. If you know, when you work for other channels, it doesn't matter how great the intention, you can't love everything that you bring to air because somebody else has bought it. I wasn't the buyer, so you know, it wasn't me bringing it to air, and that didn't always sit right for me. And I would always word it so that I would give the benefits of whatever it was, but it, you know, and people knew if I really loved something or if I didn't, because if you know me well enough, you know. So my channel had to be based entirely on honesty. Like I wasn't gonna endorse anything that I didn't absolutely really rate myself. And the fabrics as well had to be that if they didn't sell, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind being left with them because I absolutely love them. So all the fabrics that I stock, I absolutely love. So it's not, so there is no sell because they're here because I love them, and that is the end of that. But what came with it was, you know, some of the people that were made redundant at Sewing Quarter, they, you know, no one deserved what happened at the end there. It was brutal and so upsetting for so many people. And as any redundancy is, you know, it's incredibly hard. It's a livelihood lost. And SJ and Josh came on board, and I wanted anyone who worked with me to know the value that I place in them. And that's always been my ethos. I'm a big believer that women should empower women, and you know that we are so much more powerful when we lift each other up. And that's entirely how I feel. And I'd never worked in a company where that had all been through. So I wondered what it would be like if everyone could feel really valued. And was that even possible? Like, was it actually possible to have a workforce where everyone loved being there and it wasn't just to pay bills? And I'm so incredibly lucky because my team at Natasha Makes are just the best. And I love every single one. I leave the building going, bye, love you. Like, what other, you couldn't do that in another workplace without HR being involved, right? So yeah, I'm really lucky.
It's so interesting you say this, because I think the women lifting each other up, it is so incredibly true that so many women do. And when because you have empowered your workforce, and everybody loves being there. Every time I'm there, everybody's just happy. But it's in a community where, being a man in a predominantly female world, I don't know a lot of stuff. What people have forgotten, I haven't learned yet. And I found it really hard being able to make it in this industry, because a lot of people are not supportive, are not able to uplift, because there's this constant fear of threat. That's my business, it's my client. And it's like, my clients are your clients are mine, and there's enough business to go around. And it's so nice to see that it's actually been represented and achieved in what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think that life is so much easier if you can share. I think that any time there is I'm a big believer in that, in abundance. You know, I think that most things in life are abundant if you really look, if you really search. And so for me to think that you have to, you know, you have to keep it all for yourself, that's the opposite of abundance. And I love to collaborate with people like yourself. You know, there are lots of people that we work with, and it's because there's no fear of, well, they're mine, you know, they're my viewers, how dare you. It's like, well, you know, people have more hours in the day, they can watch other stuff at other times if they want to, and they have the freedom to choose where they want to go, who they want to watch, who they want to spend their time with. And I think that is very much what it feels like for me. I want people to freely come to us because they enjoy it, and not feel like because they're going to miss out, or, you know, there's something that there's going to be a loss or a lack of anything. You know, that's not what I want. So I wanted everyone to feel like they're welcome anytime. You know, it's like my home, and you're welcome anytime.
Well, it literally was your home for so long.
Yeah, no, it really was. Yeah. And you know, and I want that for my kids as well. You know, I really want them when they grow up to know that they can bring their friends and they're all welcome anytime. That, you know, but I think we get very used to, in the media, seeing women pitched against other women. Are they thinner? Are they fatter? Do they wear it better? Who wears it better? You know, oh, they've got a wrinkle, they've got this, rather than just celebrating the amazing creatures we are as women. Like, we give life, we are incredible. And when we're together, when we support each other, that's when stuff really happens. And
it is so true that it's when that commitment to work together and that uplifting, it's phenomenal to watch. It really is.
And I think that when that's taken away, it's through fear, and fear can be very divisive, and there's no need for it. So I didn't want any fear or anything. It's I think, you know, love is the highest frequency, isn't it? And if you've got love,
it really is,
then everything's good.
And now you're still demonstrating on what is it now? Create and Craft.
Oh, wow. So this is the turn up for the book. So when Sewing Quarter closed, within 3 days I was at Hochanda, because I knew a lot of them had come from Create and Craft, so I knew them when they'd set up Hochanda. So they were so lovely and so supportive, and they're like, come, you know, don't worry about jobs, come and be with us, that's fine. So I went straight across and was met with open arms, and it was just so refreshing and so lovely.
They are amazing. I loved working with them.
Yeah, they just, and because again they'd taken that ethos, they'd seen what they didn't like in other places, and they'd tried to create a family feel, and they really did achieve that. But then just literally in the last month, Create and Craft has been bought by what everyone thought was the Little Fish, which is the craft store. So Hochanda changed their name to the craft store, so the craft store has bought Create and Craft, and they're now merging. They're keeping the name.
The accountant in me is going to correct you and say Hochanda Global bought them. They're still Hochanda Global. Sorry.
Hochanda Global. Well, whoever. Paul Wright bought them. It's his third time owning Create and Craft. Third time.
That's incredible.
Yeah. It's like a homing business, isn't it? Just keeps homing back to him. And I've come full circle, and as of the 25th of February, it will be Create and Craft again, and I've come full circle. I'm back where I started.
Incredible. And then obviously Sewing Street is owned by Jewelry Maker, where you went to go and audition in the first place.
I know. It's all crazy, isn't it? All crazy.
It
so
really is.
It's a small world. It's a really small world. And it didn't take me very long to be in it to realize just how small. So what's lovely for me is that I get to see all the people that I haven't seen from my Create and Craft days again, because they're coming across, and it's really lovely. Really lovely, and incredibly sad at the same time, because there's a redundancies again, you know, there are redundancies, and that, so it's really bittersweet over there at the minute.
It is, and well, it doesn't matter which industry you're in at the minute. The world has changed so much, and who knows what's going to happen. I think watch this space. You know what? You just got to go with the flow, haven't you? I think for me, like, I don't get into politics and all that kind of thing. For me, because I'm a doer. So unless I am prepared to stop what I'm doing and go and be a politician and change it, I'm not prepared to bitch about it. So I would rather just make my little bit of the world the best that I can, and that's then my contribution. But even if you do engage it, it's all about perspective, because what I felt happened in a certain situation, someone else felt completely differently. And it's just literally the perspective as to which side you're on, as to how emotive you are about it.
But that's just it, isn't it? And anyone's perspective on anything is purely based on what their life experiences are and what they bring to anything. So actually, is anything real? If you look at that, if you want to get really into it, I think
that's another podcast.
Yeah, I know. The after glass of wine. But if you want to go there, that is another one. So yeah, everyone's perspective is different, and nothing's wrong. You know, that's the other thing, is everyone's entitled to to whatever they want to feel.
So what's next? What's the next step for you?
Oof, what is next? I want to continue working with up and coming designers or lesser known designers. I have absolutely loved working with the likes of Lisa Chandler and Odile Bayel. They're just, again, phenomenal women doing it for themselves, and absolutely I will support that all day long. So that's really great for me. I have a project in the pipeline with Kaif and Brandon. I'm not sure how much I can say about that right now, but there's something brewing there, which I'm very excited about. And yeah, just continue to find beautiful fabrics. It makes my heart sing, you know, all the color. It's what life's about for me. And yeah, onwards and upwards, all of it.
That's really exciting. I am chomping at the bit to know.
Well, you're going to be there, aren't you? I mean, you're always there rummaging through. I was going to say rummaging through my drawers, but rummaging through.
It was only that one time.
And I promised I wouldn't tell.
You've always got fabric in the drawers. I just assumed.
Was that before or after you threw litter in Gemma's designer handbag?
Oh, I will never live that down. We're going to leave that one there for everybody's imagination.
Yeah. It wasn't the bin.
It is definitely a testament to Gemma's good nature that she actually still speaks to me.
And more than that, adores you. So it's
She's wonderful.
She is. Yeah. We worked out we've known each other for nearly 25 years. That's ridiculous, isn't it?
Long may it continue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I have loved watching your journey. I love being a tiny little cog in the journey of it.
I love having you every time.
So much for being there. Thank you. It's just been such an honor to be with you and do this whole little thing.
Oh, my absolute pleasure.
And thank you for joining us today. We will be back again next week. And Natasha, thanks so much.
Bye-bye.